So I had a request to teach the Turkish Getup, which is interesting because it's not the typical content of my channel. You know, it's a weightlifting move. I'm sure there's other tutorials out there. This is how I learned it years ago. This is the way I perform them now. I use it in my training. Sometimes as a warm-up for handstand or bodyweight stuff. Sometimes it's just a standalone kind of upper body pressing practice, depending on the weight that I use. I think it's really good for shoulder stability, and especially if you know my background, I've had very loose shoulders, and I had a lot of issues with subluxation when I was younger, and I still do sometimes, so there's certain movements that really help my shoulders to feel stable, and this is specifically one of them. So I could use it as a standalone workout, and I could use it as a shoulder stability sequence for a different kind of training. So I'm using today, is in the background, 50-pound kettlebell. For me, it's like a warm-up weight, so it's not challenging, but it's not super easy either. It's enough to feel my shoulder. So this is something that I would use like maybe to warm up a handstand practice or a strength session. And then if I wanted to do just a standalone workout with the Turkish Getup, I would go a lot heavier. You can use kettlebells, dumbbells, barbells, whatever. Barbell, I'm not going to show today because I'll knock some walls. It's the most difficult because you have to deal with that helicopter style rotation. Kettlebell or dumbbell is going to be the easiest. I think I go through 7 positions to stand up, so I'll show you those and see how it goes. So the first position is going to be getting the weight up, and it's not that difficult with a lighter weight, but with a heavier weight you kind of have to use a bit of momentum. So I'll show you what that looks like, make sure the angle is there. So I don't have to do it with the 50-pound, right, because I can press it up pretty easily. But if it was something considerably heavier, which I do use, I would go 2 hands, kind of fetal position, and a little bit of momentum, get it up there. Because once it's straight, once I have a straight arm, I can hold the weight. But until it's straight, if it's not a weight that I can press, I have to use that little bit of momentum. And then as far as the weight, generally, to get the full benefit of the exercise, you want the weight heavy enough that you have to hold the arm vertical, right? Because then you'll get more of that stability test. So if it's a weight that's light enough that you can go like this with your arm and still hold it, I do suggest going heavier just to feel the technique of the exercise. Because it's one of those, it's hard to feel the correct technique if the weight's not heavy enough. And there's a few weightlifting drills that are like that. So we have the weight up, and then we'll just go through all the different positions. Like I said, I think there's 7, but I'm not completely sure. So here, position 1. Position 1 is just laying on the back. And what I'll do here, this helps with setting the shoulder, is rather than pushing up, I'll allow that kettlebell just to sink down. Sink down, and then what else I can do is externally rotate, and then I get a little bit of a different feel in the shoulder. So even just holding this is useful. And then I'll show you different angles. So then we'll go through the positions. Position 1 is from here up. So it's a little bit of a tilting of the hips. So I'm going onto my right hip. I'm getting my left shoulder up. That's the one that's holding the weight. And this one also, if the weight is really heavy, sometimes I do need a bit of momentum and kind of to use the weight to guide me. So pulling the weight forward and then up. I'm always thinking about pressing up with the weight. That's position 2. Position 3 is go up onto that elbow. So now I have the elbow down of the opposite hand. I have the hip down, and the legs are in a comfortable position. Position 3, or is it 4? I don't even remember. Is going up. So now I'm sitting, I have my hand on the floor, I have my opposite leg straight and my same leg as the weight bent. Now from here, I do a hip thrust, a hip extension, and I thread that leg through the bottom. So that's positions, I think, 4 and 5, something like that. Position 6, notice the shoulder angle changed again. This is just a knee lunge. And then position 7, we stand up. I don't think I'm in frame anymore. And then we go down the same way. So lunge, hand, put the weight on the same leg, thread the leg through to your hip thrust position, down onto the butt, slowly down onto the elbow, slowly down onto the shoulder, roll back onto the whole back, and then relax. So the good thing about this exercise, in addition to the shoulder stability, is a lot of time under tension, right? That took, I don't know, a minute because I was explaining it. It might take longer, it might take shorter, but it's not a quick like, phew. It's something that you have to really go slow and feel all the positions for. So that makes it really good for that shoulder stability. And as I said, what's good is that you experience a lot of different positions and you have to push in all of them, and you also have to stabilize the weight in different directions. Now sometimes if the weight is heavier, what you might have to do is use the weight to guide you. Like if I'm here, right, in position, I don't know what position, 3, to go forward, I might have to actually use the weight and let that guide me because of how heavy it is compared to my own body. But yeah, really useful movement. If you have a lighter weight, one thing you can play with is to actually, in all the different positions, you can do a small shoulder movements like this, like pulsing back and forth, side to side, rolling in circles, because that's also going to help the different muscles in your shoulders activate from different directions, which again I find is really helpful for shoulder stability. So, Turkish Getup tutorial. Let me know what you think. Give it a try, and let me know how it goes.